When 5:30 p.m., off-work time, arrived, I picked up my cardboard box, pressed my fingerprint on the time clock for the last time, didn't say goodbye to anyone, and didn't even look back. Everyone in the office was either sympathetic, mocking, or simply pretending not to see, but I walked out very calmly from this place, where I had dedicated years of my youth. Just as I pushed open the company's main door, the cold winter wind blew against my face, but I felt an unprecedented sense of freedom. Taking a deep breath of air mixed with car exhaust, it felt exceptionally fresh. It felt like the stone weighing on my heart for years was finally lifted. Right at that moment, the phone in my pocket suddenly vibrated frantically. Taking it out to look, it was that WeChat group created just last week. The group name was very simple, just called Friends Group, not too many people, exactly 300, no more, no less. A new message had just popped up in the group, sent by Mr. Lee. He just sent a short sentence, "Everyone, the time has come." After a few seconds of silence, the group was instantly flooded with messages, "Understood, received, awaiting good news, see you tomorrow." Finally, this day has come, one reply after another, like a silent oath. The heads of these 300 companies, these business moguls from all over the country, formed an unbreakable alliance at this very moment. Standing on the busy street, watching the messages popping up non-stop on my phone screen, I finally showed a genuine smile. Only because the last message I saw was, 300 termination contracts are about to be delivered to Xiao Jibua's desk. Boss Xiao, Mengyu, and Tingwei Tech, goodbye. No, wait, let's never meet again. The second day after my resignation, Xiao Jibua hummed a little tune, holding a cup of premium Longjing tea, and walked into his office happily. The sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting dappled shadows on his greasy, shiny face. He was in a great mood. That thorn in his side, Zheng Dishuai, had finally gotten lost. Although the last few days were quite unpleasant, in Xiao Jibua's eyes, this trouble was a good thing. It just proved his effective leadership, successfully removing a self-important and increasingly dangerous time bomb. Just an employee, after all. Without the company's platform, he is nothing. Tungwei Tech could build up the first Zhang Dishuai, so naturally it could build up a second and a third. He took a sip of tea, and began to calculate in his mind how to transition the client resources in Zhang Dishuai's hands, smoothly, to Mengyu and other obedient employees. At 9 a.m. sharp, his dedicated line rang. It was one of the company's top 10 clients, Mr. Wang from Jiming Arc. "Hello, Mr. Wang. Good morning. I was just about to report to you that we've made some internal personnel adjustments." Xiao Jibua was still exchanging warm pleasantries. "Mr. Xiao, I'll make this quick." But Mr. Wang on the other end spoke in a businesslike tone, devoid of any emotion. "After an internal evaluation, our company has decided to terminate all cooperation with your firm, effective today. A legal letter will be sent to your company's inbox shortly." The smile on Xiao Jibua's face froze instantly. "What? Mr. Wang, why is that? Haven't we always worked so well together? This is a decision made by our company. After a commercial risk assessment, we cannot disclose the specific reasons." Mr. Wang's tone sounded polite, yet distant, as if separated by a wall. Before Xiao Jibua could ask further, the other party hung up. Xiao Jibua held the receiver and stood dazed for a full half-minute, completely stunned. He quickly comforted himself that this was just an isolated case. Perhaps Jiming Arc had run into some internal issues. He immediately called Mengyu in, briefly explained the situation, and ordered, "Go follow up on this immediately. Ask Mr. Wang what on earth is going on. Is there somewhere our service fell short? Be sincere. And make sure to keep this client secured for me." Mengyu took the order and left. Back at his desk, he dialed Mr. Wang's number. However, the phone only rang once, before the other party's secretary hung up. He tried calling again, but the call was rejected outright. Panicked, Mengyu ran back to report to Xiao Jibua, before Xiao Jibua even had time to get angry. Another phone on his desk rang. It was Mr. Liu from another major client, Jian Group. "Mr. Xiao, I'm calling to inform you that we are preparing to terminate our contract." "Mr. Liu, why is that?" "A business decision." And then came the dial tone. Right after that, a third call, and a fourth call, one after another, pounded like heavy blows on Xiao Jibua's nerves. The contents of the calls were virtually identical. They were all core clients of many years, all using the same officially polite, yet non-negotiable reasons to demand termination of cooperation. Xiao Jibua finally sensed that something was wrong. One client might be an accident, two could be a coincidence, but three or four in a row. This was definitely not as simple as a coincidence. This was clearly a carefully planned collective action. He had his assistant print out the list of all clients. He picked up a red pen, and on the name of each client who had called, he drew a heavy circle. A few minutes later, he stared at the dozen or so glaring red circles on the paper. A terrifying thought exploded in his mind. The ones having issues were all the clients Zhang Dishuai used to be responsible for. Xiao Jibua's first reaction was that it was him. It must be him pulling strings behind the scenes. He must have used improper means to lure all the company's clients away. That ungrateful, backstabbing wolf. A surge of rage rushed to his head. He was trembling with anger. He grabbed his phone and pulled up Zhang Dishuai's number, desperate to call him immediately and give him a piece of his mind. But before Xiao Jibua could even dial, the reception desk phone, the sales department phone, and the legal department phone all seemed to detonate simultaneously. They rang incessantly, one after another. Panic spread through the company like a sudden drop in temperature. From 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., those 6 hours, for everyone at Tingwei Tech, felt like being tormented in hell. Termination notices flew in like shrapnel. Cancellation emails flooded the legal department's inbox. The receptionist's hands went numb from answering termination calls. The digital counter on the wall representing the number of clients began to plummet frantically, from 10 plus to 30 plus, then to 80 plus. The negative impact was relentless. He completely lost his footing. He locked himself in his office. His mobile and landline took turns ringing. Every call was from a familiar name. Every word was a piece of cold, bad news. His emotions shifted from initial anger, rapidly into confusion, followed by panic, and finally turned into utter despair. He tried to contact those client representatives he usually called brothers and drank with, like Mr. Li from Qianxing Group, or Mr. Wang from Qiming Art, but without exception, his calls were either hung up immediately, or went forever unanswered. He was isolated. The entire business world he relied on for survival had ruthlessly shut him out. Inside the company, people were already in a state of anxiety. Employees watched the dwindling client numbers, and listened to the hushed discussions of their colleagues, already understanding what was happening. Some of the well-informed ones had already started secretly updating their resumes. Meng Yu became the most panicked person besides Xiao Jibua. These clients who were canceling were all nominally under his name. He stood at the center of the storm, helpless. Couldn't get in touch with a single client, and was pacing around in a panic. He finally managed to get through to a familiar purchasing manager's phone. He tried to use his usual sycophantic tactics to appease them, but before he could say 3 sentences, his ignorance of the business details left his argument full of holes. It only strengthened their resolve to terminate the contract. You don't even understand our core requirements, and your company still wants to work with us? The other party coldly threw this line before hanging up. Meng Yu slumped in his chair, his face ashen. In the office, after repeated failed attempts to call, Xiao Jibua slumped into that executive chair that symbolized power. His shirt was already soaked with sweat. He gasped for air, his eyes bloodshot and filled with fear. Only then did he slowly realize that these clients weren't here for the Tingwei Tech platform at all, nor were they courted by Zhang Dishuai. They left of their own volition. They followed Zhang Dishuai. This realization terrified him even more than the company's bankruptcy. It completely shattered the values he had always firmly believed in. The platform is greater than the individual. It turns out that a person's value can truly surpass the platform. It turns out the person he personally drove away is not just a replaceable cog, but the only load-bearing pillar of the entire building. By 5:30 p.m., when work ended, on the list of Tingwei Tech clients, the 300 most important clients, 180 had already vanished. The day after he resigned, Xiao Jibua didn't sleep all night. The office lights stayed on all night. The ashtray was piled with cigarette butts. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair disheveled, like a beast trapped in a cage. At 9 a.m., the final judgment arrived. The termination letters from the remaining 5 major clients were delivered to the front desk by the courier on time. By now, the 300 core clients maintained by Zhang Dishuai were all lost, without a single exception. These 300 clients had once accounted for 90% of the company's annual revenue. This meant Tingwei Tech, overnight, from a profitable industry upstart, was reduced to a shell, left with only rent and payroll to pay. A massive fear gripped Xiao Jibua. At this moment, his only thought was to find Zhang Dishuai and beg him to return at any cost. He couldn't care less about his dignity or face as a boss. With trembling hands, he dialed Zhang Dishuai's private number over and over again. The call went through, but no one answered. He called again, still no answer. He dialed a 3rd time. A cold, automated voice came through the receiver. The user you are calling is currently on another call. He had been blocked.